Again, this is Brent Allan Winters, commonlawyer.com, www.commonlawyer.com. As I said, did I say this? Well, I want to say it again, coming at you from the remote hinterlands of the Wabash River Valley, where the hogs, the frogs, and the dogs keep up a racket all night long. I've been doing this for years, decades. Had a fellow invite me recently to come and speak to a group of people, and I'm looking forward to doing it in a remote area of the United States. I mean remote. Well, I've been there, but it's remote. And there are a lot of folk there that are sick and tired, sick to the point of illness, he said. Well, he didn't say it exactly that way, but they're fed up. And so what they're doing is they have these monthly meetings. And a lot of people come from all over, come into town to these monthly meetings out of the hills and the hollers and the plateaus. And they come to these monthly meetings and they discuss how to be ready, how to be ever ready for whatever may come. If you're ever ready for whatever may come, it likely will never come. But nonetheless, if it does come, you're ready. But see, the reason it won't come if you're ever ready, watch me. The reason it won't come, I mean the calamity, I mean the trouble, won't come like it otherwise would have. It may come. You're going to have trouble, yes. But if you're ready, the evil empire, the evil one himself, the useful idiots thereof, it won't bother you. Why did the Japs attack Pearl Harbor? It was the fault of the Democrats controlled Congress. The Democrats controlled the White House, FDR. They had stripped our military down lower than it had ever been, really lower. They didn't have nothing. They were drilling with broom handles, not rifles. That's a fact of history. George Patton was commander of a tank unit, an armored unit out in the deserts of California. He couldn't get parts to fix his machines. He was a wealthy man. He paid for them himself. Put your money where your convictions and your loyalty is. He did. The man running the country and the Congress was rubber stamping like a bunch of dolts. No, they weren't like a bunch of dolts. They were a bunch of dolts. D-O-L-T. Fascinating word. Miss Franny, that word's kind of like feckless.
Not as powerful. Sorry, not as powerful. Feckless wins every time. And they all still are feckless.
That's one of Miss Francine's favorite words. I didn't say it was like it or as equal to it. I said it was kind of like it. It has a power behind it, if you know what it means. Feckless, look that one up. That's an important word to understand people's personalities that are holding the levers of power sometimes. Well, FDR invited it. He just said, we're not ready. And we don't care to be ready. And I've read what the Japanese leaders said at that time. They said the Americans don't know how to do anything but drive nice cars. And this is during the Depression. And by the way, the Depression wasn't as depressed as people like you to think it is. The Japs said they were driving nice cars. They were going to the movies every weekend, Saturday matinee. They got money. They got luxury. They're undisciplined. We could wipe them out easy. That's what happened. Sick, isn't it? Darn sure it's sick. The way to keep that from happening, well, this was Ronnie Reagan's point. Peace through strength. If somebody thinks you're weak, they're going to come after you. Now, we weren't weak. We were a powerhouse with a boiler that was in cold iron. That's what America was. A powerhouse with a boiler in cold iron. That means it wasn't up and running. We got our boiler up and running. We got up ahead of steam. We were unstoppable. It was pretty bad for them. But why all the dead Americans? Why all the dead Japs? Why all the dead Germans? Why all the dead Italians? Why? Because of the doltishness, the stupidity of those in government that refuse to be ready. What does the Bible say? Gird up your loins. What does that mean? Fancy word. That's old King James. That means they used to dress in a kilt back then. What's a kilt? A kilt's something that hangs all the way to the ground. This modern kilt stuff they got now, that never existed. That just existed in modern times in Scotland. But in the old days in Scotland, they wore a robe that went clear down. That's called a kilt. In the old world, they wore one too in the Near East. When Paul the Apostle says, gird up your loins, it means pull your kilt up. And men used to do this when they prepare for battle. You pull up your kilt, the tails of your robe, and you tuck it into your belt so your legs are free to move. And you tie it up so it's not in the way. It won't get in the way when you're swinging your sword. It's called girding your loins. It means to tuck up your robe, your kilt. That's what a kilt is, really, a large robe. Of course, they didn't have the designs on them that they have in Scotland. That's always been there, by the way, and even before the modern kilts they have now that never existed before. But you notice the kilts they have now. Watch this. In Scotland, this is just a bit of fascinating history for free. The kilts they have now are already girded up. And the kilts they have now were, the idea of the shorter kilt was to be ready for battle. That's true too. And the Black Watch of Scotland wears those kilts, or used to. I don't know if they still do or not. Some did, some don't, I suppose, some units. But the idea is you want your legs free. You don't want tight pants on. You want loose clothing, but up and out of the way. So you're ready, ever ready. What does our Second Amendment say? Well, that's easy. You've memorized it, I'm sure. I hope. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. It didn't say any state. It says a free state. You can't have a free state and defense of a free state with professional men of arms dominating. No, there must be arms throughout our country. Miss Francine sent me something the other day, said that as far as they can tell, this is what it was. No, they can tell. They got the records, 420 million firearms in the United States that were purchased through dealers. Oh, go ahead, Miss Francine.
That's right, that are registered with a federal dealer, federal firearms dealer. So
thank you. Under the Firearms Act of 1968, another communist piece of legislation, but nonetheless, we know there are 420,000. That's the registered ones. What about firearms are kind of like, kind of like gold and silver. Once it's mined, it never goes away. It stays among humanity. It's used, it's stored. Well, guns are like that to a great degree. They're not thrown away. People try to take care of their firearms. They've always done that. I know folks that got firearms from their families from the War of 1812. When I was a boy, and we used to play hide and seek at my great grandma's. Her father was in the war, in the war between the northern and the southern tiers of the states, and we'd get off in that southeast bedroom closet in that house. And there was we'd be playing hide and seek, and we knew it was dark. We could feel this big rifle sitting up in the corner behind the clothing. Had a big bayonet on the end of it. Had a flint lock on it, or a cap and a lock, not a flint, but a lock. And it was my granddad Mackenzie's rifle that he carried during the war between the northern and the southern tiers of the states. She kept it, see? She kept all that. People keep firearms. So if you got 420 million, and there's a lot less persons in the United States than 420 million, but you got 420 million that are registered with the powers that be, and they've tried to preserve firearms going clear back to the 1776 war, maybe some before, and how many firearms are there in this country? Who really has the firepower on the individual level? On the occupation level, listen to me, the occupation level. Did Germany have firearms on the occupation level? And without occupation of land, no wars are won. There has to be men with personal weapons to hold land. Never forget that. Never forget that. If we'd have whooped the Japs at Okinawa, dropped the atomic bombs, and said, well, we're not coming over, you fellows are on your knees, they'd have got up and tried to retool and to come back after us. So what did we do? We sent occupation forces, and we're still there. We're still there. We have bases that we used to. I think we still do at Yokohama, Sasebo, and other places of which I'm not familiar. I'm familiar with those because I've been there. We also have some, the same thing in other countries. Germany, we've maintained occupation for 70, 80 years. Long time, friends. Without occupation. So I say in America, without individual arms, whoever has the most individual arms will occupy the land, and war is about land. War, let me repeat that. War is about land. How do I know? The Bible teaches that, and we learn it in history. My brother went to the war college, my older brother. They're 18 months apart. Yeah, he just like me, I guess. No, he's different than me. You know why he's different? Because I grew up with him, and that's different than growing up with me. You see, he grew up with me, and I grew up with him, so we're different. But we have a lot of common interest. And he went to the war college, the Naval War College, way a long time ago. He had to be chosen to do that. They chose him. Why, I don't know. I've wondered about that. But I asked him when he got out, I said, well, what'd you learn? He said, well, two things for sure. Two things for sure. I said, what? He said, absent an act of God, and that's what we have to deal with. We'll let God figure, if he wants to act on our behalf, he will. But we're supposed to be ready. And absent an act of God, numbers always win. Absent an act of God. The number of men, the number of machines, the number of artillery, the number of bombs, the number of rifles, pistols, the number. And that's what we are to figure on, and we are to calculate that Jesus Christ says no man goes to war unless he calculates whether or not he can carry it through and win. And you do that by calculating. What does calculating mean? That means to count. Count what you got, know what you got. For the right reasons, not the wrong reasons, like David did in the Bible. He did it once for the wrong reasons, and God judged Israel. It's called the census, counting the militiamen. The Bible teaches that they are the only ones to be subject to a census, the militiamen, not the women, not the children, not the ones that are not part of the militia, the older men, the younger men, 20 and able to bear arms on upward. Well, numbers always win. Number two. What else did you learn, Dave? Number two. That a war, a battle, a fight for anything other than dirt, anything other than land, anything other than aretz, as the Old Testament says, anything other than that is a waste of ammunition, of blood, of life, of time, of everything. It's futile. It's to no purpose. To do so is to take the authority, if you're Christian folk, to take the authority of the name of the Lord God in vain. To fight for anything but land. Why? Because the Bible says so. That's part of the trust settlement of God. And if you don't occupy the land after you've taken it, you haven't won. Did we ever lose a battle in Vietnam? They're really a major battle. I'm sure there were skirmishes, but did we ever lose a battle in Vietnam? 10 years we were there. Answer: no, not once did we lose a battle of any proportions in Southeast Asia. Not once. Did we win the war? No. We left. We were intimidated, wore out, and left. Why? I'll tell you why. Because all we were interested in, and I can show you the statements from LBJ and General Westmoreland foremost, all they were interested in was a body count. That's all they were interested in. And all Westmoreland ever said was, well, yeah, somebody criticized him. Yeah, criticize him. He'd say, yeah, but we killed more of them than they killed us. See, numbers are important on your side, but to count bodies, God doesn't give you authority to do that. Now, the object isn't to count bodies. In that war, promotions depended upon the body count. Right. That's all they cared about. LBJ, he was president, commander-in-chief. He said, let's go over and kill some of those boys. It'll make everybody feel better. Kill some of those scoundrels. Kill them, kill them, kill them. That's all he ever said. That's all Westmoreland ever said. Listen, you kill useful idiots of the evil empire, 10 more will pop up. That's not the way it works. God does not operate that way. The Bible's clear on that. I keep saying the Bible's clear, the Bible's clear, the Bible's clear. The Bible is clear. Who's paying attention? Very few. I wish I knew a lot more about the Bible than I know, and I'm working at it. Have been for many decades. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know enough. But I can say that. We're not to be counting bodies. What is war about? It's about taking dirt, taking land, and occupying it. Don't let anybody kid you. That's why the Second Amendment is important. The arming of the people. Who's the people? The militia. Who's the militia? The men between ages 20. Well, our federal law says between the ages of 18 and on up, but in the Bible it's 20. The common law is 21. 21. Why 21? Well, just in case you make a mistake and you miscalculate when he was born. Err on the side of older, not younger. Well, this is Brent Allan Winters, commonlawyer.com.